Hi everybody, it's Lynne Andrews. I'm back. This time I'd love to show you how I float. So please keep in mind it might be a little non-traditional compared to what you might have learned or seen in the past. We all have our unusual little ways of doing things. I'm more on the self-taught side, and because of my love of watercolor, I just kind of maybe incorporate a little bit more water than I think your traditional floating would be. So I'm not going to even touch on traditional floating because I'm not that great at it. But I would love to show you, how I load the brush and how I float. It's a good idea to use this dark piece of paper that I've prepped with soft black. And I'm going to grab a styrofoam plate, which I do my mixing on. And I thought because it'll show up really well, I'll load my brush with white. So the brush I like to use, obviously, are mine. This is the number 8 Lynne Andrews floater, and it's full-bodied. It comes to a beautifully chiseled point. It glides. It kind of grabs curves. I love it. I couldn't be more proud or happier with it. So what I do, I wet my brush in my little tub of water here. Let me grab some paper towel quick. Blot it once or twice, depending. And I'm going to stick the tip into this little puddle of white acrylic paint. This is Snow Titanium White. It's DecoArt Americana. And the way I load it is I just kind of keep it in the same little area. There's a ton of water on there, and that's what I want. I'm working it back and forth. It's going to maintain its point. I'm just kind of twirling it. So what I'm doing by wiggling it back and forth, I'm working that paint down into my wet bristles. So I've got the majority of the paint, I think you can see, majority of the paint is on the tip of my brush. Then I've got the paint water mixture, and then the rest of the bristles are full of water. So when I go to put the tip down, I'll show you exactly. So say I want to float up against this curve, okay? So I'm going to take my brush and I hold it parallel on the piece versus at an angle, like you're holding a pencil or a regular paintbrush. And my wrist is more downward. I flip my wrist more upward, and that goes from angle to flat to parallel. Now, obviously, you can't paint this, with your hand in this position. You have to angle it somewhat. But my wrist is more up than down, and my brush is more parallel than angled. So I always kind of take the side of my hand or finger, depending on what you're painting and where and all that. And you stabilize it. And then I hold the brush more in the center, so it kind of gives me range of motion. So I put the tip down. It's been so long since I loaded it. I put the tip down right up against what I want to float up to. Now, floating is just adding a layer of color that blends outward. So I keep in mind too, paint, water, and then water. So the majority of the color is going to be right on the end of the brush. But if you press down on your bristles, can you see that? How it's darker up against the line, medium, and then blends out? So I press and I keep my eye right on this line, push and pull. Because we have so much water, I just had to go back and pick up a little bit more. A little more water. But I have time to do that. There we go. That's exactly what I want right there. And then what I'm going to do is take a sash brush or a big mop, but I don't have a big mop close by. So I start on my wet outside edge and I stipple that or mop it to blend it so that I don't get any kind of harsh lines. Or sometimes you can go right up to the float and do it, or, you have complete control over that. So let me dry it. And it's very forgiving because I use such an excessive amount of water. You can go back and make it darker and do the same exact thing. I should really wait for this to cool. Now I haven't reloaded because it was all set. You can also walk that back a little bit. And that's how I do my floating. That's one. Let's do a little something with color over here. This is just random and colors that I was using previously. This is Thicket. This is pretty. Oh, I know what I wanted to show you. Okay. So I am right-handed, and I don't know if that makes a difference as far as like the floating, but for me, if I'm going to try and do a straight line, I like to start away from myself and float towards my body. It just seems to be straighter for me. Now, I don't have any lines drawn or anything, but I'm going to do the same thing. I loaded that brush exactly the same way, and the way I get going, usually you have like this weird little puddle. I just immediately mop that if possible, so it doesn't dry weird. Come back in. I feel like I need a little more water, so I just tipped my brush in. I still have it loaded, but see how far down on the bristles that I'm laying that brush? That's going to give you the width of that float. So if you, let me mop this. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, it started to dry a little, but what you can do in that case before it really sets up is just come back in with water and get rid of it. The other thing I can do with floating, say I already have an existing, say I have like a little house already painted, and I want it to stand out against the background a little bit more. What I would do, let me give this a quick dry. What I would do is use something like a darker color or a complementary background color. So again, it's the same application. I'll take the tip of my brush. This is milk chocolate that I picked up. Go back and forth. It's very transparent, so it's in that way it's forgiving. Come up against the outside, back and forth. That's actually, you can see that really well. That's exactly what I would do if I was, painting something. The other thing would be, once, say this is painted anti-gold or something and you want to do trim boards, I come in on the actual house. Look how soft that is. And work my way down. I need to move my piece. I'm that person. But I think you get the idea. I love it. It's not for everybody, I don't think, but it's so similar to a traditional float. It's just obviously a different kind of brush versus, your flat or your angle. And I use a little bit more water. So I hope you found this interesting. Thanks. Bye.
Well, thank you very much.